Well, as you know, we're proud here at SportsTime Ohio to be the home for the Mid-American Conference and our MAC Game of the Week coming up on Saturday. A great rivalry between the Akron Zips and the Kent State Golden Flashes. We had Coach Hazel on the show yesterday, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome the head football coach at Akron University, Terry Bowden. Terry, good to have you back on the show. It's been a while.
Sure has. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We got big week ahead of us.
Yeah, no kidding. And, you know, your record this year, I think, is very deceiving. In losses, you had 38 points, 26 points, 49 points, 28 points, and you put up 66 in your lone victory. Those games could have gone the other way for you.
Well, it's so hard when you're going from a kind of a culture of losing. We had two one-win seasons and weren't very competitive, and getting these players to believe in themselves and to fight for 4 quarters. You know, they say that when you're turning a program around or when you're on the bottom, you're going to lose big, then you're going to lose close. Then finally you're going to win close, and then you're going to win big. And sometimes those phases are tough getting through, and we're kind of stuck on that point. We're getting close ball games. We're taking people to the wire. We've been into overtime. We've been on the final drive, the final play, but it's been tough. And so, you know, if you just keep on plowing, you keep on holding on to the rope, good things going to happen. And so I feel good about these players. I've said this week, like I said last, the players are playing the best they can. We've got coaches have got to do as good a job as we can of putting them in a position to be successful.
You know, you come from one of the most famous football families in the history of college ball. Your dad, Bob. I say to this day, this is my 43rd year in the business, Terry. One of my most cherished memories was my interview. I've interviewed him a couple of times, but interviewing your dad and of course, your brother Tommy. Your upbeat spirit, your upbeat personality, demeanor with these kids and trying to turn it around, you've got to take pride that they're buying into it, even though the going is tough.
It is, and again, I want these seniors to get the results. I want them to have the results as best they can, whether we could play a magnificent game this week and upset our rival, or we get another win down the road. I want them to get some of the benefits of this hard work, but they have already set the tempo. They have already set the attitude for how this program is going to turn around. And it's going to take some athletes down the road, but you can't do that without being positive. I believe positive reinforcement always better than negative. And again, my brother Tommy, my brother Jeff, myself, all learning from my father that you've got to be able to motivate and inspire. Kids don't, they don't love it quite as much as us coaches. Us coaches make a career out of it, and I think they need to have fun, and I think they need to enjoy it. But I always think you need to be uplifting to them. So we're frustrated. We're disappointed in our record, but I'm not displeased with the effort, and you never know what's going to happen.
You know, last week you outgained Central Michigan in that defeat, 492 to 444 in total offense. You lost the game, but you had some kids missing, I understand.
We've had injuries, you know, and I'm not sure we're as strong right now as we were 3 or 4 games into the season because we came in very shorthanded depth-wise, where we might have been able to put 11 people on the field offensively and 11 on the defensively. Then we've lost a couple of our starting defensive linemen for the year, and you're replacing them with true freshmen or walk-ons. And that it just hasn't been able to hold up. But Nick Capone, one of our star defensive linemen, Albert Presley, one of our star defensive linemen, have been out. Don't know. Their status is not likely for this week as well. We went into Central Michigan last week without Jawan Chisholm. But, you know, when you're losing, these things all come to your mind. They're all seem to make a difference in the game. If we were a little more depth, we wouldn't be talking about this, I think. And so, you know, explanations always sound like excuses when you lose, and we really don't want to get in that because, again, we've got to build just like anybody else does, and take them one game at a time and make sure we build and play the best we can right now with what we got.
Well, now that you're at the head of the Akron program, that depth will come when you get a couple of years under your belt and you can get your own recruiting kids in there. Let's talk about Dalton Williams. Now, he leads the MAC in passing yards, passing per game, touchdown passes. No question about his arm. If there's a knock on him, it's his decision-making.
Turnovers, and again, and you're right, and I think they've gotten a little worse. I'll tell you why. I don't think his decision. I think we put too much on him. Our defense is so young, and we are a lot younger on defense, a lot more inexperienced. We cannot create turnovers. We haven't had a turnover against us in 3 weeks. And so what happens is you start pressing on offense, and you start trying to make throws you shouldn't make. There's nothing wrong with punting once in a while. Punting is fine as opposed to a turnover. But I think Dalton has pressed, and he's turned the ball over on interceptions by trying to get too much or make too much happen on every play. We have got to stop that. We're playing a team, Kent State, and people say, well, how do they get it? They don't turn the ball over. They lead the nation maybe in turnovers. I know they lead the conference, plus 19 in turnovers. They created 7 turnovers against Rutgers last week, 6 interceptions. So we are not getting turnovers by our young defense. The kids are just not veterans enough. And then offensively, Dalton Williams, who probably has pretty good decision making, has made poor decisions as he's felt like he's had to score more often because of the way the games have gone. So that's a little bit our fault. We got to get on him about that, let him know, hey, you can't do it all yourself. Let's punt and let the chips fall.
Your top running back, Chisholm, is he going to be available to you? Is he healthy?
Yes, he is. He's been practicing well this week, so he's back. Although his backup, Connor Hunley, a true freshman, got, I think, 92 yards on 17 carries last week and is more of a power runner, but we do want our best running back. So Juwan Chisholm is back and will be ready to go.
Terry, I didn't realize until I did a little prep for my interview with you that, we talked about getting some depth once you're there a couple of years, but you got to be excited about 13 true freshmen, 11 redshirt freshmen on your roster.
Well, that's the one they're playing, and again, that's not a good thing when you're trying to figure out what's going to make you win ball game this weekend. But it's something that you have to. We got here and had about 3.5 weeks to recruit last year, so we thought we might get some solid freshmen. But 6 or 8 of them are playing consistently, many of them starting, and then of course redshirt freshmen from last year are playing. So we've got some youth, but we've also got to improve the talent level, and that's going to come with just the overall quality of bringing in more people. But we play a lot at times. When your turnover margin is when you're on the downside, it usually means you have a lot of inexperienced people playing in there, guys that are just maybe learning how to line up as opposed to creating turnovers and causing turnovers. That's kind of the second phase of an experienced football player. One that can intercept a football or strip an offensive runner from the ball, or one that learns not to fumble or turn over. That's kind of your more veteran style. But those are good freshmen to look up to. That's a good phase to look to down the road.
You've got a tough task ahead of you. Coach Hazel's done a great job with Kent State. Talk about the Golden Flashes.
Yeah, I mean, he really has. He really has. I looked at last year. They did not have hardly their offensive stats were like ours. I think last year they weren't the tops, and they were about at the bottom side. But their defense was very, very good. Now they've taken the defense to another level. Their offense, they brought in a quarterback, and they've stabilized their offense. They've got a great multi-purpose running back, kick returner. I think it's Dry Archer. And it's incredible what he's done, returning kicks, catching a pass, moving to the backfield, getting the ball put in his hand in a lot of different ways. And he's been a spark on his offense. But I think their defense has been the key to their turnaround, their ability to create turnovers. And again, when you're plus 19 in turnovers, there's a reason you're 7-1. And so I think he has done a great job. Kent State is obviously our rival, but I watch the progress they've made this year, and I see it coming from a team that has that's playing with a lot of confidence and creating turnovers and being opportunistic and that's how they win ball games.
Last winter I was the MC of a police fundraising banquet here in downtown Cleveland, and the guest speaker was Jerry Faust. I did not know that you were an assistant under Faust when he was at Akron.
I sure was. 1986. I was the quarterback coach here at Akron. I had been the head coach at Salem College in West Virginia. I was 29 years old. And it was funny, he had just been released at Notre Dame, and we both interviewed at Marshall for the head coaching job, and they turned me down. They said I was too young right then, and then he turned them down. But I guess somebody must have mentioned my name to him, because I got a call one night. and he had asked me if I wanted to be a quarterback coach. That was when we made the official move to Division I football. And so I came over and and that's kind of why I'm here. I got to know a little bit about Akron. I knew about what we didn't have during those days. And then, 20 years later, I come back, or 25, and see the school and the facilities. I say I already knew the great football that was in the area, the Northeast area, Northeast Ohio area. And I said, it's time for somebody to go there and build a program. So that was kind of it. It started back with Coach Fat. He walked into my office today to say hello, and he said, I'm sorry I can't be there. I got to go to the Notre Dame game this week. That sounds like Coach Fat.
I bring that up twofold because Jerry, that was the first time I had an opportunity to meet Jerry, and I had a ball with him that night. He's just a gem of a man, as you know. And I was, when you got the job at Akron, I was a little surprised, but now I understand that background.
Well, and also I was raised in Morgantown, West Virginia. It's about 3 hours away, and they say that half the people that have found that live in Akron came from West Virginia years back. But I grew up about 3 hours away, and I find that the area is not that dissimilar weather-wise. Maybe just a tad colder, but most of my life was spent, and my friendships were made in Morgantown. So I feel like I'm kind of back home.
For any viewers, especially real young ones that may not realize Terry's background, your tenure at Auburn, I got to tell you, Terry, 11-0, 9-1-1, 8-4, 8-4, 10-3 before you had a disappointing way you left that university.
Right.
But you had some phenomenal seasons there. Any regrets?
No. Looking back, there was no regrets. The older I get, the more I appreciate. We had the 5 winningest years of any coach in their school history. But Auburn's a very political place. You don't just answer to your president, your AD. You answer to your trustees, and you answer to a lot of different decision makers that get involved. And at some point in time, it gets very difficult. I know Tommy Tuberville, who's having a phenomenal year at Texas Tech, he left after beating Alabama. I want to say 6 straight years. Which is, and I was the first coach ever to have a winning record against Alabama, and he comes back and pounds them. But I have no regrets. I had great. We won our first 20 games, and it's been helpful. When these young boys look at me day after day and say, when is it going to happen? I said, man, it'll happen. Just keep going, keep plowing, keep hanging on to that rope. Because you can the program is going to turn around and it's going to make good things happen in the future, and you can point back to an Auburn or even Samford where we turned that program around and did that. But those were great times at Auburn and great experiences. I also had great times at broadcasting. I left Auburn. I spent 10 years, 7 of those with ABC in New York City, 3 years with CBS Westwood One Radio, and if I didn't get that fire back in my belly, I almost had to get back into coaching. I couldn't stand it. But at some point, there was a point in time where it was so much enjoyment being a spokesperson for college football. My dad's out there, he passed Joe for the winningest coach ever. Then Joe passed him, and I kind of enjoyed being a spokesperson. But I'm 56 right now, and I feel like I'm 36, and I love being at Akron. I do believe, and I just hope people will have faith, because I believe this program is going to be. We're on the beginning of a special era in Akron football.
I really enjoyed your work as a commentator. That was the last time I interviewed you, when you were working for ABC. It's ironic. You wind up at Akron, and so does Coach Tressel. Do you have any contact with him?
We do. We see each other once in a while. Not much now in the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season, because I've been so busy and I don't hardly get out of my bunker here in the football office from work. But I saw him a good bit this summer. We had a lot of we coached against each other twice when I was at Akron in '86. He was the head coach at the Youngstown State.
Right.
And I used that season as a great example for our players, because he was 0-10 when he lined up against Akron in that last game and beat us in his final game of the season in his first year at Youngstown. And then again, when I was at Samford, we had just moved from 3 to 1AA, and we got to the national semifinals in 1AA football, and we went to Youngstown and played against Coach Tressel. Of course, he beat us and won the national championship the next week that year. And then I broadcast a couple of his games, but I've always a great respect for Jim and his family. His father, of course, kind of an icon as well in Northeast Ohio football.
Yeah. When I interviewed Coach Hazel, I asked him about Jim, and he said, oh, yeah, we text each other all the time. He said, yeah, I love him. I look up to him, but he's the enemy this week.
Well, like I said, Jim has learned a lot from Coach Tressel. He's learned a lot from Coach Tressel, and you can see the way they play. Just solid foot. They offensively they don't lose the ball game, and defensively they just come after you and play great defense. It's very Ohio State looking over there.
How's your dad?
Dad's doing well. He's coming up for our UMass game on the 10th. Traveling around, he's 83 years old. He's been out of coaching for 3 years now, but he's kind of those guys that idolize Bear Bryant. Says, he died 2 months after he quit coaching. So my dad travels and speaks 2 or 3 times a week, and so he's all over the country speaking to groups around the country and staying busy. But he's got great health, him and my mother, and he's doing great. He wrote a note to me. He says, "You and Jeff, hang on. You're the only Bowden's coach, and every ear in the family is turned to Akron football every week."
Oh, I'm glad he's staying active. He's great. Now, he's got to be disappointed. We feature Phil Steele on the show every week, Terry, and
right.
He predicted that Florida State would meet Oklahoma for the national championship. That's not going to be the case any longer, but boy, your dad had to be disappointed at that one loss because Florida State's loaded offensively.
Well, yeah, you hate it. You hate it for them. You got to keep your kids at their prime, because anybody can beat anybody these days, and they let NC State kind of sneak back on them after being ahead, I think 16-0. Let them sneak back, and it's hard to win them all. That's just the point. It's hard to win them all, and even nowadays, if you lose one, it better be to the right team, because it won't get you back up in the BCS final too. And so that's tough. And of course, Jimbo Fisher, I signed him out of high school. He was my quarterback for 4 years, and then coached for me for 10 more. So it's part of the family. Well,
speaking of winning them all, this man we're interviewing has done that at Auburn in the toughest conference in the country in 1993, and now he's at Akron turning this program around. Terry, it's always a delight. We got to do it more often now that you're in our backyard in Akron. Good luck on Saturday against Kent State. We're looking forward to televising the game here on STL.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Terry Bowden. All right, we'll be right back on All Bets Are Up right here on